Hello, I'm Ron Miscavige, and this is Life After Scientology, and I have a very unique program in store for you today. As a matter of fact, this is probably the only program I've done with this content in, because it's totally based on how to get recovered from your experiences in Scientology. And I have a very special guest on today. Her name is Molly McMullen. Good morning, Molly.
Good morning, Ron. How are you?
I'm doing good, and I'm really glad to have you on. And as I said to our listening audience, this is going to be something totally different. So let me get a little bit of business out of the way before we get started. If you like these programs and you like the enlightenment that you're getting and the education, could you please subscribe if you haven't done so far? And when you subscribe, hit the bell. That means that when there's a new program on, you'll get notified. And then if you'd care to help support this, you can become a Patreon. So just go to my website, therealronmiscavige.com, and you can see how to become a Patreon. And with your donation, it helps us defray the expenses of doing this. Okay, so without any further words or any more business, I'd like to get started on this. And again, this is Molly McMullen. She's from Portland, Oregon. Let me ask you that first basic question I like to ask. How did you ever get in Scientology, Molly?
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on your show. And I also want to say it's an honor to be your guest today on Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to you. And it's great to spend the morning with you.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I got into Scientology in 1998 when I was 16 years old. I was kind of a kid that was interested in spirituality and religion and philosophy and was asking the bigger questions in life. And my best friend was, she was on course on the weekend. She didn't really tell me she was a Scientologist, but she said, I got to go on course on the weekend. And so I just kept asking her, what are you doing? What does that mean? And eventually her family took me down to Portland CC. I watched the intro video. And I was fascinated with this, notion that I could get rid of, negative feelings and the impact of negative memories. And I had some health issues when I was a child, and I kind of felt scared of my body as a teenager. I didn't, want to get sick like most people. And I felt like when I became a Scientologist, I really believed that Scientology would, give me the ability to never get sick again. And that was thrilling. And I just continued, I guess, for I had 2 years left in high school, and it was kind of like a struggle between my parents and I, because they weren't interested in Scientology at all. I tried to get my mom involved at one point, and she wasn't having it. And they got really upset because, as most people who have been in Scientology know, college education is not valued. And so I had college aspirations originally, and I was getting, really good grades. And then I became a Scientologist, and all of a sudden I didn't care about mainstream education anymore, And I think people, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's at that point when you first get into, you think that it's the answer to everything. This is how I felt, that they had the answers to every question I had in life. In other words, the standard saying is, what would Ron do? And you would do what he would do,
Yeah, exactly. There was always a policy.
Yeah, that's right. And also, you actually studied philosophy in high school, didn't you?
Yeah, I studied Zen Buddhism. I had converted to Mormonism the year before I became a Scientologist, so I was kind of all over the place, and just was really curious and interested in that topic.
Yeah, and see, to me, that kind of is the hallmark of someone who could become a Scientologist. They're looking for something.
Exactly.
And they can't quite put their finger on exactly what they're looking for. Like, why are we here? Or, what is this all there is of life? Or is there more answers? And I can see you getting hooked that way. matter of fact, it's kind of like the common denominator of people getting hooked in it, you know. And the other thing is they want to help. And I think you've always had that feeling that you wanted to help, right?
Yes, yeah. And another thing is that in high school, you know, I was kind of the type of person that got along well with everybody, but I wasn't prom queen, I wasn't valedictorian. You know, the culture of high school wasn't really intriguing to me, and I wanted something else. And so when I became a Scientologist, it gave me this community of people where I felt really seen. I felt like, you know, everybody was saying, wow, you're so high-toned and you're such a big being. And that validation as a teenager is really thrilling. Yeah. It's scary. You want to throw your life into something like that. Yeah, no
kidding. Well, you ended up moving to LA, didn't you?
I did. I
Well, you just broke up. And as a matter of fact, I'm not getting you.
Now?
So, okay, now I think you're going. We just missed out something. We had a little dropout there.
Okay. So I moved to LA, and I basically just wanted to move down to the Scientology headquarters, but I wasn't ready to join the Sea Org, and I knew that I didn't have a way to survive down there unless I was monetarily supported by my parents. And so I did enroll in a little 2-year college called Marymount College. And I went down there, and every weekend I was, you know, up in Hollywood, and the friend group that I was in, which was a bunch of second-generation Scientologists, you know, we were partying together, and there was some overlap between us and the cast of that 70s show. And so It was really exciting. I went to Ashton Kutcher's barbecue. I went to Danny Masterson's 25th birthday party, you know, and I know he's a big topic right now. And I have to say that I did talk to him, but my boyfriend at the time was standing right next to me, so I never actually saw, you know, any funny business with him. But it's horrible what has happened, and my heart goes out to the victims that went through that.
Oh, yeah. So you did mix in with some bigwigs down there in Scientology, that is.
Yeah, Laura Prepon or Prepone. She's Donna on that 70s show. I met her, and she's, you know, as you know, she's a big-time Scientologist. And
yeah. Well, then, did you gave up living down there, and you went back to Portland? Isn't that right?
I did. Eventually, I just felt like the cost of living in LA was too expensive for me to try to go up the bridge and work down there, and I had no education other than a high school diploma, and so I moved back to Portland, and I just said, okay, I'm going to move to Portland and do the lower half of the bridge. And I ended up getting a job with a wise company. You know, that's kind of the thing. It's when you're part of a religion, it's actually, you know, easier to get a job in some ways when you can kind of, you know, garner the connections from the community. So I got a job at WISE company, which, if anybody doesn't know, WISE stands for World Institute of Scientology Enterprises, and it's we were a consulting firm delivering business, you know, L. Ron Hubbard business technology to doctors in private practice and chiropractors, dentists, things like that.
Okay. When you worked there, did you make a living wage? Could you live on the money you made there?
Yeah.
So, because that's strictly a money-making business, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I was still, you know, a young kid, so I wasn't getting rich or anything. But I was able to support myself, you know. Yeah.
That's what I meant. Could you support yourself and keep body and mind and spirit all together, you know?
Yeah. So I was able to do that and, you know, be on course. And also the thing that, you know, WISE companies offer is a lot of free Scientology, you know, business training. So I had, you know, half the day we could be upstairs in our course room, and I could be taking business courses. So it's kind of like getting a business education that wasn't really
that's not bad. That's not bad. And then I guess I can jump right forward to it, because that was your experience in Scientology. What made you think about leaving? What happened that made you leave?
There were a bunch of events that happened over the course of the next, you know, 8 years after high school that I was involved. One of the things that happened was I had my best girlfriend join the Sea Org when I was 17. And other than one time, seeing her down in LA, which was under the guise of a recruitment cycle, meaning that they were trying to recruit me into the Sea Org, that was the only way that I could see her, and I've never seen her again. So, having somebody that you're really close with as a 17-year-old, and then you say goodbye, and that's it. I've never been able to have any email contact with her or anything.
Wow.
And that was hard, yeah.
Well, so you worked for WISE, what, 8 or 10 years? What was it?
I worked there 3 times on and off between 2000 and 2007 for like a couple years, each, give or take. So I would kind of leave and then come back. Another thing that happened was I was working for the WISE company when 9/11 happened. And that had a huge impact on me because I was seeing our whole country grieve. Everybody saw the images on TV, the horrific events of that day. And then I would go to work and it was like, you don't talk about it, don't feel it, just be productive. And the whole 9/11 event was just seen as being drama. And they called it N theta, which is in Scientology is like negative energy. So that whole disconnection from just being able to feel, that's like part of being human.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of, at first I bought into it. I was like, yeah, we're just going to be productive and not get down about this. And then after a few days, I was like, that kind of sucks, actually. Nobody's talking about it, and it's something we need to talk about together.
Yeah, and then were you ever kind of try to be recruited for the Sea Org?
I did. There was a time that I was really fascinated with I wanted to become a flag auditor. That was, that's considered like the top auditors in the world. And I wanted to live in Clearwater, and had a woman who came up to Portland to recruit me. And she was actually from a different branch of the Sea Org, but she was spending, a week with me, and I got really fascinated. They do a good job of stroking your ego, everything that you do. They're like, wow, great job. You're so able and high-toned, So I was really considering it for a little while. And then I simultaneously had fallen in love with Afro-Cuban and Afro-Brazilian dance. And I asked her, this is like the last meeting we had, I was like, well, will I be able to go to dance class, like maybe once a week, or, and she was like, no, you would have to give that up completely. And so after that, I was like, I'm not going to be able to do that. Like so I really attribute, dance actually is what saved me from joining the Sea Org, because if it weren't for that, I really did want to, go all the way with it. So
yeah. So thank God for Brazilian dance and you falling in love with it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, then you also had an experience where you toured flag with WISE. How did that go? What was the story on that?
Oh, so in 2007 in the spring, we had a symposium. Our WISE company had a symposium in Clearwater, and our business, community would pull all the doctors and private practice from around the country and bring them there to have, presentations and all that. And then there was a side agenda, of course, to be able to allow all those doctors to take a tour of flag. So it's kind of it is a Scientology gateway. I mean, there's no denying that. So
yeah.
I went to Clearwater in 2007 and I got to take a tour of flag. And while I was there, I just was really shocked because I noticed that the rooms were empty and the hotel rooms were just full of these superfluous features that I felt like, man, all this money I thought, we're going to humanitarian programs and helping, people in poverty. And here I'm seeing this like just exuberant, just like the way that they spent money, down at Flag, I just was really disgusted by it. I was like, this isn't spiritual progression. This is, just catering to the top 1%, while 99% of the other Scientologists are broke and, living in dorms I had seen my Sea Org member, the one time I visited her, I saw her dorm at CCNs, and it's like, what a shitty, excuse my language, but, what a horrible place to live. And then for them to put all that money into, the people who are really wealthy. I eventually noticed that really only the people who are extremely wealthy get catered to in Scientology.
Yeah, well, it's a money-making business. It has nothing to do with spiritual freedom or advancing to a higher spiritual state. I'm sure you came to realize that. But you also had an experience with somebody inviting a prostitute into a room. What was that story? I'd like you to tell that.
So in the summer of 2007, I had...
You're breaking up again, so come on and say what you're going to say.
Okay. All right. Am I clear now? Okay.
Yeah, you are. And it isn't... there's something with the internet connection right now, but let's continue on, though, because it's just...
Sure. So in the summer of 2007, I was a personal assistant for a Scientology executive, and he had another Scientology executive. They both worked at the Portland Church. They were both wealthy people. I've talked about this in my own video about how some staff members were able to maintain wealth by working for the IAS. In any case, I was there. I was paying bills online, and the person the Scientology exec that owned the condo was out of town. And when I was sitting there, in walked the other Scientology exec with a prostitute, and they basically acted really awkward for a few seconds, turned the water on and off, and and said, I was here to do an interview with this girl, and it just didn't line up for me. And then they left, and I told my best Scientologist friend about it, and she told the homeowner, the exec that was out of town, and they basically both, when he came back into town, they came down on me. The one with the prostitute said that it was an interview, and he said that, I had also noted that there were sex toys on the bed, a couple of weeks before that during the out-of-town time, and I was really confused what was going on in that place, because I was like, how is it possible that he's out of town, but there's stuff on the bed, and this is really weird. So the exec that was with the prostitute came down on me on the phone and called me a wog, which is an insult in Scientology, and he said, I'm taking my wife up there.
Okay,
and I said, what about the girl? Yeah. Can you hear me? So I said, what about the girl that you were with? And he said, that was for an interview. So they covered the whole thing up, and a year later, my friend called me and she said, you were right. This guy was using prostitutes. He got caught, and he's in a huge ethics cycle with his wife and everything. Nobody called me, of course, to tell me, that we threw you under the bus. We're sorry. So I was just like, wow, I can't believe I did see him with a prostitute. I knew that was a prostitute by the way she was dressed, and it was crazy, and yeah.
Wow. So what was the thing that you actually decided to leave? What was the thing? Was there one thing, or was it just a cumulative type of stuff?
There were those cumulative events, but the very last thing that was the most profound for me was that in 2009, I had a major health breakdown. My body got completely overwhelmed with stress. I was going through a divorce process. I, lost the house that I was living in, and, my family as I knew it. And I was taking 17 credits at school, and I didn't realize that stress could really be a killer like that. And my body just literally broke down from overwhelm, and I was sick for 5 months.
Whoa.
And I lost 15 pounds, which I've gained all back now, and their doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. They didn't realize that I was just had overwhelmed myself, without knowing it. So, and people know now that divorce often makes many people really sick and stuff, but I had piles and piles of stuff going on at the same time. And I reached for, I ordered some Scientology books to try to figure out what to do for my body, because I knew I was just emotionally so upset. And I opened those books, and it just hit me like a ton of bricks. This church can't do anything for your body or your health at all. And it was during that time that I started receiving what's known as Biodynamic Craniosacral Therapy treatments, which is, it comes from cranial osteopathy, but it's basically a manual, hands-on, light, subtle modality that works with your nervous system when it's really stressed out, and it's good for people with acute health conditions, and it's good for people with emotional trauma. And I had 3 of those sessions, and my body is suddenly, like, I was gaining weight again, and I could, keep food down, and I started feeling better, and I eventually specialized. That's what I do now professionally with clients.
No, wait a minute. Let's get into what is, and if you can put it in like simple language, so like a layman like myself, who maybe I heard that word for the first time, cranial osteopathy, is that what you call it?
That's what it comes from. It's, as a massage therapist, it's called biodynamic cranial therapy or craniosacral therapy.
What exactly do you do, or what is done to you when you get that treatment? That's what I wanted to know.
So your clothes are on, and you're on a massage table, and the practitioner is using light touch to work with the subtle movements in your tissues and the fluids in your body and your energy system. And so the practitioner is feeling for locations where stress is being held, and we like to combine it in my community with massage. So there's a modality that we practice called biodynamic massage, and it's just lovely. It's there's oil and skin to skin contact, and I'm sure many people can relate to how there's certain areas in their body where they hold tension and stress. Some people it's their neck, some people it's their low back, and other people, it could be their calves or their glutes. Like, there's just a lot of tension that we take on. People are like sponges, and we're just kind of like sponges in the water in our environment. We take on the traumas that we go through. I don't think it's a mistake that embedded in our language are phrases like, I had a weight lifted off my shoulder, or my heart's broken, or my stomach is in knots because my boss is upset, or, I've got my wife on my neck, all those things that are embedded in our.
Okay, and we're having another difficulty with your voice. So start talking a little hard again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. So,
okay, now
sorry.
we had a little dropout, but I was just going to say, look, this almost sounds like an Eastern type of treatment. Is it? Does it have a basis in that at all, or am I totally mistaken on that?
It's based in osteopathy, which is a Western practice, but in a sense, it is kind of like an Eastern modality, because if you think of acupuncture works with the meridians, and it works with blockages and energy. And so it's kind of like a combination of both, but it's really lovely. And if anybody's interested in learning more about it, I really recommend the Craniosacral podcast. It's got hundreds of different practitioners around the world being interviewed about the work that they do. That's really lovely. But, oftentimes, people think of PTSD as being something that they only experience after a war, or something like that. But in reality, trauma, I really like this definition by Deb Dana. Trauma is anything you experience that is too much, too fast, or too soon. So if anything overwhelms your nervous system, that's considered a trauma, even if it's like a micro trauma. So a lot of people are walking around in the state of PTSD, where it's kind of like their nervous system is in fight or flight, and it's like they've got the gas pedal stuck down in overdrive, and they're not able to fully relax. And that's why my digestive system during my emotional collapse was so tied up in knots, and it just literally needed compassionate presence and therapeutic touch for my system to like let go and go from that fight or flight state into what's called parasympathetic rest and digest, where a lot of people know what that feels like when they are on the massage table or when they're getting acupuncture and they feel that deep sense of relaxation. Like that time is very important for the body because it doesn't just temporarily relax, it actually restores, rebuilds, and rejuvenates what's going on in the nervous system to bring it to balance again.
Yeah. Now, you have a program that you do. Is it called Recovering Scientology? What's the name of it?
I have a YouTube channel. It's called Scientology Recovery, and I have a website, scientologyrecovery.com. I'm also on Twitter at Scientology, capital R. So you guys are all welcome to visit my pages and check out my videos on YouTube. There's more information, and I'm going to be doing a lot of self-care videos in the future. So far, I've just done more theoretical stuff talking about why Scientology is damaging, why it's incorrect, and it's not a holistic practice. It doesn't involve the body, so it doesn't. Basically, I realized through my process of training through all this yoga and massage therapy and my extra training that I've received in craniosacral therapy, I realized that Scientology overlooks literally 95% of the person when they try to do auditing or when they're trying to clear the person. They're missing 95% of the picture. So
because they're not treating the body. Is that your point?
Exactly. Yeah, that's my point. Yeah.
So are you going to teach people a lot of these techniques on your program? Is that what you're going to be doing, or what?
Yes, I'm going to be teaching a lot of self-care techniques, things that people can do at home. And I'm really excited about it. I want to share, the things that help me. I'm a very sensitive person, and I've been through a lot of my own trauma in the past. And so just learning all this stuff has been really awesome. Having tools, where you can feel resourced just on your own is really helpful, especially right now when we're in this pandemic. We're in this crisis really of connection. Everybody's disconnected from everybody else, and be helpful to have tools to be able to give assistance to your own body and mind for more peace and feeling more grounded and stuff. So
now I'm going to delve a little bit away that for a second and bring out the fact that you know how to teach sign language, or you do sign language. What is the story on that? That kind of interested me when I took these notes that we were going to talk about.
Oh yeah. So after I worked for the Wise Company, I became a sign language interpreter. I took classes.
Okay, you dropped out again. Boy, this is terrible. But I don't want to pull the plug on this because this is interesting stuff.
Yeah. So I became a sign language interpreter after I worked for the Wise Company. I trained that was the first thing that I did, was working as a sign language interpreter. And that was part of the deal, is that I was working in medical and I was working in mental health. So I was assisting, in hundreds of doctor's appointments. And I was seeing so many people with musculoskeletal issues go in to see their doctor and get given pills for it. And I just was appalled at how ineffective that was for people, the solution. And so during the time that I was working as a sign language interpreter, which was a more, effective means for me to support myself in the Wise Company, I also was training in all these body modalities. And so I was going to school, I basically never stopped going to school. So I was just learning, all this body stuff at school, and then I would go to my job and I would be like, man, I can't believe that doctor who's done medical school is giving their client who has neck pain, like they're giving them hydrocodone. That's just like not right. The person needs to get some body work, so that's kind of part of my story too. So I do, when I work in private practice, I do open my practice to deaf clients also, since I am fluent in sign language. Yeah.
Now, how do you learn sign language? I know this is delving from our true subject, but
it's okay.
Is there a school to teach you how to do sign language?
You can go to any community college. Almost any community college has ASL, American Sign Language, and I just took the 101 class, and I just fell in love with the idea of being able to express myself without talking. I've always really liked that, and I was also a dancer, and so just kinesthetic expression was always something I really liked, and being able to be fluent. It took probably 8 years before I was like really, really fluent. But yeah, they put you through school in about 3 years.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You've lived a pretty interesting existence there. Well, a pretty life, not existence. You're a hell of a lot more than just existing, because you're helping people. What is the name of your website again?
It's ScientologyRecovery.com, and the YouTube channel also Scientology Recovery. Yeah. And I also want to say that it's been so heartwarming, the reception, how warm and welcoming and encouraging everybody has been really awesome. It's kind of like I left this community of Scientologists, and coming back to the community of ex-Scientologists has been just as warm and welcoming. It's essentially the same good people that want to help others.
Yep.
And I just loved it. It's been really lovely.
Well, let me tell you something. I think one of the common denominators of people who get into Scientology is they like the help. And they don't lose that feeling when they leave. They still want to help. And so maybe with your program and handling what you said to me about PTSD, it's like keeping your foot on the gas pedal. That kind of described it to me. That was a very interesting way to put it. But the fact that you could help people who've left get over the trauma, that's a big deal. I think that's very nice of you to do that.
Oh, I'm thrilled about it. I hope to be able to help a lot of people. Yeah.
Well, I think, is there anything else you'd like to tell people about? Because I think we more or less covered what we wanted to cover today, didn't we?
Nothing really comes to mind. I just want to send out the love to everybody right now that's, struggling with the times that we're in. And I just, my heart goes out to everybody that are, I know that as somebody who was receiving massages like every week, because of the trades in my community, it's been really challenging to not be able to have those therapeutic resources. It's been challenging to not be able to see friends as much. And I just want to hold everybody's hand right now through this time we're going in. And, yeah.
Well, that's great. And I'm very pleased that I had you on today, because this has been a little different, not a little bit, a big difference of a way to handle people who've left and handle their trauma. And I appreciate you coming on. And let me just take care of a little business. Those of you who have, tuned in and watched this, if you haven't subscribed, I would really appreciate it very much if you subscribe and press that bell so you get a notification when we have another interview. And if you'd like to help contribute, you can become a Patreon. Just go to my website, therealronmiscavige.com. So, Molly, it's been a real pleasure talking to you today. And I hope you get a ton of people watching your show, because I think you got something that's unique, and I think you can actually help. Now, I can't say I know that, but I get the intuitive feeling that what you're doing is very helpful, and that's just like a gut feeling. And what is the name of your website? I mean, your YouTube channel again?
It's Scientology Recovery, or ScientologyRecovery.com, or on Twitter it's Scientology, capital R. And I just want to say thank you so much, Ron, for all of the work that you do, and all of your videos on your channel are amazing. And thanks for just your contribution to society has been really huge, and it's really impressive. And I'm seriously honored to be your guest. I didn't expect to be able to do this with you. And, and on Father's Day, happy Father's Day. So
I thank you very much, and I'll give people the secret to wealth, the secret to unbelievable wealth. And here it is. So listen up carefully. You ready?
Yeah.
Buy low and sell high. So there you are. There's nothing like humor. I love a good laugh. Matter of fact, that's some of the best medicine I take. My two medicines I take, I exercise, which I told you this when we were talking about it. And I enjoy humor. And I think that has a lot to do with how you feel, and take a lighthearted attitude on life that, hey, this isn't going to go on forever, this whole thing we're going through right now. It'll be over. So just keep a positive attitude and tune into Molly McMullen's YouTube channel, which again is what? With a number of times. You're going to get a lot of people.
ScientologyRecovery.com. And what were the 4 words, Ron, that you said equated to happiness?
Yeah, well, it's my philosophy. When I wrote my book, I was going to write in the book a new religion that I started. My book, Ruthless. And I thought, well, no, I don't want to do that, but I'll just adopt it as a philosophy. So it's just 4 words. And here's all it is. And I try to live by this. I don't always, but I try my best. And I'd say most of the time I do. It's simply this: help someone, help something. And those are my 4-word philosophy. And I invite you to use this in your life. I always feel better helping somebody than being helped. That's my personal feelings. And I think you're going to experience the same. But anyway, thanks again, Molly. Great having you on. And
thank you, Ron. I really appreciate it.
I wish you the best of success in your endeavors in life. Okay?
All right.
So for Life After Scientology, I'm Ron Miscavige. I'm your host. And this is Molly McMullen. And it's been our pleasure to talk to all of you today. I will see you on the next episode. Bye-bye, Molly, and bye-bye, all of you out there.
Bye, Ron. Thanks, everybody.